Have you ever wondered what all the fuss is about when it comes to virtual reality in flight simulations? In this video, we're going to take a look at VR as an introduction to flight in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Welcome to another test flight video. In these flight simulation videos, we take a look at all sorts of things like airports, aircraft, utilities, scenery, and even hardware, and we'll let you know, are they value for money. In today's video, we're going to take a look at virtual reality for Microsoft Flight Simulator like it is today, and we're going to share a VR experience and do one of the hardest things to do, in my opinion, which is in flight simulation on a 2D screen, which is flying a circuit or doing some pattern work, depending on what part of the world you're in and what you call it. If you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button for more flight simulation content is coming your way. Before we jump into today's flight, a little disclaimer: filming in VR is not the easiest thing to do. The picture quality doesn't do justice to what I see in on my end using the VR headset compared to what you guys see on YouTube. So within saying that, please keep that in consideration. The tool of the trade we are going to use today is the HP Reverb G2 version 2. This headset was used to partner with Microsoft Flight Simulator for the launch of VR, and with the version 2 of the headset, we've seen a few more improvements that will improve the immersion more when it comes to virtual reality and flight simulations. We are not going to review the headset, but we'll save that for other videos coming up, including other VR headset. Here's a quick view of my settings, because I know when it comes to virtual reality, some of you guys like having a sneaky peek of other people's settings. I'm using OpenXR Toolkit with a custom render scale of 80%, and I have disabled motion reprojection. For me, I just find it provides more jitters. On the simulation sides, I won't read out all of my different settings, but you'll get a bit of an idea, and I'm being pretty conservative on the side because I'm using only a 3070 graphics card. On the OpenXR Toolkit side of things, size is set to 90%, sharpness is set to 40, and I run a contrast of 50.1, and that's to make sure that the blacks are a little bit darker. Today's flight, we are at my local airport where I actually fly out of here in real life, and we actually don't have the aircraft in the simulator that I fly in real life, so we're going to be flying out the Just Flight Piper Arrow Warrior, which is similar, a bit more overpowered, but it's similar to what I fly in real life. There we go, we've just started up the Warrior. We're going to turn on all the electrical systems here. We're going to turn on the lights, pitot heats, turn on the GPS and all that sort of stuff here. We're actually going to do this flight pretty much like a real life flight and try to do it close as possible as I would fly an aircraft in circuits on runway 23. In my opinion, there's pretty much two types of people, or two reasons why you would get VR. One is if you wanted to do real life procedural sort of type of flying, which this is what I'm doing here. This is one of the reasons why I use VR in Microsoft Flight Simulator or other simulators, and the other one is for just purely entertainment use. So I've been using VR for many years now, ranging from all sorts of different headsets in different types of simulators, and I tell you what, it was one of the #1 tools that I used to help get my pilot certificate. So jumping into VR and doing some practice on some circuit work, I tell you what, it does help you do all the basics. So this is what we're going to do here. The Warriors are ready to go. We've just reduced power, dropped off the parking brake, and we're rolling. We're just going to taxi up here a little bit and do some magneto checks. One of the things you may see on the screen is on the left hand side, of the right hand side is a little bit blurry. That is due to the Reverb G2. It has a sweet spot, which is the center of the screen, where it will give you the most clarity and sharpness, and towards just out of your eyesight, it gets a little bit blurry. So that's just some of the trade-offs you have to take with the different headsets and the different types of lenses. But like I said, what I see in the headset is completely different to the imaging that you guys see here through the YouTube video. We are going to hold here and put the parking brake on. We've got the aircraft turned into the wind, that way we can keep the engine nice and cool. Going to run the RPMs up. We're going to check the mags. We're going to check the left and right. Make sure we don't have a massive amount of RPM drop. Also, going to switch the fuel pump off and see what happens, and switch it back on, and then also we'll drop the RPM down to idle and make sure the aircraft is idling above where it should be. So these are sorts of pre-flight checks that we would do in many different similar aircraft, and we want to make sure that everything's running smoothly so we don't have any problems. It's never good to have an engine failure just after takeoff on a single engine aircraft, because especially at this type of airport, there's a lot of trees around, so it would be much fun to have the engine failure after takeoff. Time to swap the fuel tanks. We're going to put the fuel over onto the heaviest tank, and then we're going to set the stopwatch to make sure it counts. You sort of want to be on each fuel tank every 30 minutes and swap them over. That way we keep at the wings level, the tanks level, and also we know, you know, you don't want to use all the fuel in one wing and then the engine conk out when you're trying to do a circuit or pattern. So there we go. We've got that ready to go. We're going to release the brake. Sorry, that's just me moving the headset and get it in the right position before we start. Then we're going to release the brake and taxi over to a holding point, runway 23. We are rolling runway 23 or 223. We've done a quick surface control check. Interesting fact about this airport, it doesn't actually have any taxiways. So if we want to taxi to a different runway, and there's 4 runways in total, we need to taxi down a runway. But we're going to hold at this holding point 23, and we're going to be taking off 23. So the taxi for this circuit is not very long at all. So we're just going to have a quick look and make sure there's no one on the final or on that downwind, which we can't hear anybody doing radio calls. This airport's CTAF, so you actually do your own radio control calls. There is no control tower. So we are just about to line up on the runway. I'm going to let you guys enjoy the sounds of the takeoff. We're going to rotate around about 50-60 knots and have a climb rate of 70 knots, and we'll put our flaps up around about 300 feet above the ground, and we'll come back to you then. Flaps are up, and we're increasing our pitch to make sure that we are climbing as quick as we can go. We're just clear to the left and clear to the right, and then we're going to make our turn. There was a little glitch there with the G2 reverb. It's actually got the sensors on the front, so it doesn't have any sensors on your desk, and I'm actually flying this with the lights turned off, so every now and then it will glitch. It actually doesn't do that if I've got the light turned on. Hey, you don't need the lights on when you're in a VR. So there we are at 1,000 feet, which is the circuit height here. So we're going to reduce the pitch, and then we're going to pull back on the throttles and get into our circuit speed, and then we're going to turn onto our down lag. Everything happens very quickly in the circuit. That's why I think it's one of the hardest things to do in a Microsoft Flight Simulator or flight simulation in general. And as you can see, you need to have your head on a swivel as I'm looking for different geographical points around the airport to make sure that I'm lined up. And I'm having a little bit of trouble at the moment because we're about 200 feet above where we need to. This aircraft, the Warrior, has a little bit more horsepower than what I'm used to flying, but we're going to make sure that we can get back down to 1,000 feet. So when we get ready for slow flight at the threshold and get ready for our downwind turn, is that we're at the correct altitude. So at the moment we'll be doing all our checks and making sure that everything is good to go for our landing, such as the brakes are off and all that sort of stuff like that. And I found myself drifting into the airport. We're a little bit too close, so we're just lining back up to where we need to be. We're going to do a full lap on this one so you guys can see everything that we do. We'll jump into the next couple of circuits as we turn on our base. That way I don't bore you, but our circuit should get better and better as we go along. So we're just looking at the wing there, making sure that we're at our threshold, and this is when we reduce the throttle back and get the aircraft ready for slow flight, and that basically means we're going to drop a notch of flaps there and get it ready for landing. So now we're going to keep looking, make sure that the runway is about 30 degrees behind us. Once that is done, we would make our call and turn on to our base leg and also start reducing our altitude and popping a lot of flaps in, so which we're about to do right now. We have dropped our second notch of flaps, and because we're a little bit high, we're going to pitch the nose down. We want to be around about 600 or 500 when we're turning on base, and because we're a little bit high, we're going to even put a third notch flaps down. Stalling speed of this particular aircraft is 44 knots with full flaps down, so we're going to do a pretty slow approaching, probably about 60 knots. And we did do our turn to base a little bit too early, but that's okay. We will line up. So once we land, we're going to do a touch and go. We'll trim the aircraft, put the flaps down, and advance the throttle, and we'll continue to go. A little bit of bounce there. We actually didn't hold off the aircraft as long as we should. We rushed it a little bit, but we're going to pop the flaps back down, trim out the aircraft, advance the throttle, and we are going to go around for another one. If you want to see me do this in real life, we also have a first class membership you can join up to, and a part of that, one of the perks is you get to watch a free or a video of me doing this in real life for all the first class lounge members. So we're going to go around a couple of more times, and we'll come back each time we are on our turn to final. Landing number 2, the altitude's a little bit better this time, and also a turn to final is a bit more lined up. We're going to do 2 notch flaps for this landing, so we should come in a little bit quicker, and we'll see how we go. We are back and we're on our downwind leg just for our last landing. This time things are improving. We put our first notch of flaps down there and we're at the correct altitude and speed is looking good. So proficiency is the key, and practice to get things perfect. So I sort of wanted to go over again is there's different reasons why people would use VR when it comes to Microsoft Flight Simulator or other simulations in general. You could use it for two things like me, one for entertainment and two for practicing things in a real life scenario, just as we are doing circuits in here. If I was doing circuits in an aircraft, we would be doing things that very similar to this, and I can bring that in from the real world life into a flight simulation and vice versa. So also this was all for entertainment purposes. I actually don't fly this particular aircraft in real life, so don't quote me. Everything I have done here, some of it may be different to what a pilot would do with this particular aircraft. As I mentioned at the start of the video, we're going to bring some more VR content into the Oz Flight Simulator channel, such as headset reviews and news. So if you're enjoying this is a bit of an introduction, a bit of a tip of how you can use a VR in flight simulation. So if you like this sort of stuff, let us know in the comments and what you would like to see. So we've got our second notch of flaps down and we're turning to base. We're at the right altitude. Speed is looking good. Hopefully this is going to be our best landing yet. And if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I'll leave some footage of us landing on this particular runway in real life as well. If you're still here at the end of the video, thank you very much. You guys are a bunch of aviation legends. If I haven't bored you too much, hit the like button and let us know in the comments below what you thought of the video. And if this is the first time you've been to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It is much appreciated. So I'm going to drop in some footage of me landing at this runway in real life. And like I said, VR is absolutely amazing, and by us doing a YouTube video, it doesn't really show it as much justice as it does look in the headset myself. But I tell you what, it's the closest thing you can do to flying in real life. So after the video, I'm going to leave you with one of our other Oz Flight Simulator videos, so why don't you check that one out, and we will see you over there.